Welcome, everybody, to another rousing rendition of Solid Dudes. I'm your host, chaddukes. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button. It seems to be very important here on YouTube, and like the stream if you don't mind as well. Very excited today. One of the things, the concept of this show is to have conversations with the interesting people that I come across in my life. And Jeff Katz is one of the best guests I've had on this new incarnation of my show since we started a few years back. He is a writer, a producer. Tell you what, man, when I we first started going back and forth on Twitter, I was like, oh man, this guy's involved with this great movie with Russell Crowe that I'm really excited about, Pope's Exorcist. And then I saw all of your accolades, and we chew a lot of the same dirt. Only you were able to not just
accolades.
Well, you're not able to be a fan, but you worked in all the shit that I enjoy, which is like wrestling and comic books and movies. So kudos to you for being able to kind of be more than someone that just enjoys and consumes those things, but actually manifests them.
Thank you. I don't take it for granted. I've been very lucky, which is, it's like people want to, oh no, I was incredibly talented and hard work. No, luck. I'm very lucky. And I acknowledge it. But thank you. Yeah, no, I say to my parents a lot, and I think that just particularly as I get older, but I felt this way for a long time, frankly. Like I've had a lot of people spend their whole lives trying to get to live a dream, a single one. I've gotten way more than my share. So I really have no right to complain about anything ever. And it's informed the way I try to live and approach my stuff because I don't take it for granted. I know how I am.
I feel the same way, but I don't do as good a job of not complaining about anything ever. I'm constantly complaining, even though I feel like if you do this for a living, you have no right to do it. Of course, we have to address this. Your dog's in the background.
Yes, one of them. I have another one over here too.
Introduce us to this dog, please. We're big dog people around these parts.
So this is Woody, Woodrow Tiberius Zwickel Katz. So I co-parent this one with my ex-girlfriend in New York. And so, but very amicably, like it's very modern. I'm shockingly mature in my old age. So this one's back and forth between here and New York every couple of months. And I think his brother, oh, here comes Agent Cooper.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. They're both rescues. I wasn't planning on getting, the first one I got with my girlfriend at the time, and he's our child. And again, she's a TV exec. We're still super tight. In fact, her fiance now is a huge wrestling fan, which is hilarious because
wow.
Like she was dating me and I was not really watching at the time, and now it's like she walked right into that. And I'm like,
man.
I saw Cooper, a friend of ours at our local PARK. I have to spell that or they'll
sure.
Her dog had gotten killed tragically, and she had rescued a new one at a rescue here, and we were all following the Instagram of the rescue, and I saw this little guy come up, and I was like, that looks like Woody's little brother, and had to do it. And honestly, given the fact that Woody goes back and forth, it makes the time go faster, because it was very hard at first to go from to have 2-month periods where your dog's not there, and he's my best pal. So
yeah, we
also credited as my assistant on the movie, which is really unprofessional.
That's pretty dope. Can you get? I mean, do the dogs get
incredibly unprofessional? But nobody's watching this, Dukes.
Do they get like a key grip status or anything like that?
No. I stuck that one in at the last second because I'm an asshole. But
I got no problem with that. I bring Ripley up here. Ellen Ripley Dukes is my dog, by the way, and I bring her up here, and she just ruins everything. Just barks in the middle of the show. If you snap your fingers, she goes absolutely batshit. So just in the middle of the shows, you just hear a dog exploding in the background. So
you and I both. There's a very risky thing that we both did in this, and other people got burned by this, which is if you name your dog after pop cultural stuff. So Woody is named after Woody the bartender from Cheers, whose name was Woodrow Tiberius Boyd. Now Tiberius, of course, from Captain Kirk, which I'm also fully in support of, as you know. And then Agent Cooper is Agent Cooper from Twin Peaks. And so the problem is, like, he was almost Worf at one point.
Man.
Worf would be a big dog. And if you do that, and they bring the character back and they bungle it, or if you named your kid Khaleesi, she's Hitler, suddenly, it's very risky. So now Ripley's good. You're safe. She almost came back. She almost did a part 5, but you're good. You survived Alien Resurrection. We're okay. Ripley's good. We're fine. So,
what did you think of Alien Resurrection?
Man, saw it in the theater, and in fact,
so did I.
funny. So I bought the script to that movie at the Motor City Comic-Con in Detroit when I was a freshman in college.
What?
Yes, by Joss Whedon. I remember.
Okay.
$15. Or there was a place. I don't know that they still exist, but there was a place in Boston called Pick's Poster Cellar, and they would be at a bunch of conventions. And in fact, that's the first place I ever got a draft of Freddy versus Jason when I was in high school.
Wow.
I ended up working on it, the Peter Briggs draft, and I read that in one sitting driving up to Ann Arbor to go have dinner with my brother and my dad when he was in Michigan. The script was better than the movie. And I think that I had the one sheet for that movie in my dorm room as a freshman at Michigan State. In fact, we were really excited. I took a group of friends because we all loved Alien.
Yeah.
Alien 3, Fincher's.
I love Alien 3.
With that, he's interesting, right? He's going for something. And so, by the way, so did Junet. So it's a very French movie. The movie is really ultimately undone by the design of the newborn. If the newborn had been what was in the script, where it was almost like a mosquito thing with pincers, if you go find the script, which I'm sure is online, it's way more interesting in design than how it was done. And I think ultimately the creature didn't work at the end.
I always feel this way about, if you've watched any of these horrible Predator movies that have come out, or Aliens vs. Predator even, I have this theory that Hollywood executives don't understand what is cool. And when you have something that's cool, you don't need to inject it with steroids. That's why these Jurassic World movies, you're not going to beat the Tyrannosaur. Like, it's the king fucking snake. And yet in every one of these movies, it's like, all right, now we've got this adamantium plated 3 times the size laser vision fucking. It's like, it's just, you don't need it. And there's no better example, in my opinion, than the Predator and the Alien universe, where it's like you have these incredible horror institutions. By the way, the Xenomorph is the most terrifying movie creature of all time, in my opinion. It's acid for blood. It has no eyes. And they just can't stop fucking around saying, we got to make it bigger. We got to make it better. We got to combine it. There's always hybrids, constantly hybrids. And I feel like that concept never pays dividends.
Well, and there's a big factor in that. I think listen, the Xenomorph and Bruce the Shark, probably those are the two.
There you go. That's it.
Right. And I think that the issue, and go back to Alien 3, it's a dividing line there, is that once you and I know Gillis and Woodruff well, great guys who did the Alien, and I knew Stan Winston very well.
He's awesome.
And Stan Winston, who was a brilliant guy, and if you don't know who Stan Winston is, go Wikipedia him, so you'll be like, oh, Stan Winston, when I was a young executive, brings me to his, he's in the valley somewhere. I don't remember where the hell he was, but he brings you to the valley, to his warehouse. And the first thing he does, first of all, you're sitting waiting at reception and there's statues of all the shit. But he then brings you into a conference room. And before he makes his interest, they run like a 2-minute trailer of everything he's done. And you're in the conference room surrounded. So here's the T-Rex. Here's the Xenomorph. Here's the Predator. Here's a gnome named Norm. Here's the penguins from Batman Returns. It's just the whole thing. And Stan Winston, it's one of the smartest things I've ever heard in my life. And to the point, I give this note all the time, and I gave it during Pope's Exorcist. Stan Winston rule, which is 2 seconds and out. Because when you see a creature, 2 seconds, get out. The longer you look, the people start to see the seams. They start to see the makeup. They start to see the this, the that. And to that point, what you're talking about now is CG. And Alien, just look at the early Alien movies versus the later Alien Covenant or wherever, where CG versus guy in suit, tactile, like the eye still knows. The eye knows.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big factor in that. And that's why those movies are never Alien and Aliens. And Alien 3 is the first one where they start to go into CGville. And I like Alien 3, but I think that that's why Alien versus Predator, or really more Prometheus, and these things, like CG just can't ever compete with that feeling.
Well, I also think that the reason why Alien 3 still holds the water, and the director's cut, of course, is the one that I would recommend anybody see, is that it's a hybrid. Like, there are some real, I would say, questionable CG in that movie, but there's also there's a big robot alien too. I mean, they've got video of it like walking on the set.
Oh, it's Fincher, man. He's going for some. I almost made a movie with him years ago, and I'm sorry you didn't get to do it because the guy's a brilliant guy. even just the religious side. And there's also a great some of the William Gibson, I think, did a draft of that.
Yeah.
There's one where they're on a planet and the planet's made of wood, which is wild if I remember correctly. Like the surface is wood. Like there was some really interesting stuff. And again, even just the also, by the way, lots of great British actors in that movie. Like if you're just like British character as a lot of fun for folks. Pete Postlethwaite pops up.
He's great in that movie.
Yeah. Charles S. Dutton from Rock and Rudy gets one great speech, gets a great death scene.
He's in the scene where he's going to kill, where Ripley's asking him to put her out of the misery, and then he hits the axe like right next to her shoulder and like leans over. That's a masterfully shot scene.
And he's like, I ain't much for begging.
Ain't nobody give me nothing. Yeah,
that's right. Nobody gave me. And you're 5 degrees off from. You're 5 foot nothing and 100 and nothing. But it's fine. But the best too is he's in the lead works and the aliens come. There's that great overhead shot where you just see the head of the alien, and he's like, ow. Fuck you. And then it's a great death scene. He's got one. And you hear,
I'm fascinated when Ripley's like climbing up out of the lead works. You can hear him saying things like, "Is that as hard as you bite?"
Oh, you got one.
And you're just like, "Holy shit!" Like that's that's great. So that's like
he's anti-Bill Paxton, but both great characters.
Love Bill Paxton. So I never got it. Did you ever? I forgot. Did I ask you? Did you ever get to work with Bill Paxton?
No, I dated a girl who was actually a nurse at we stayed friends, and she was a nurse actually for him at Cedars when he was ill.
Wow.
And he was a wonderful guy. He always heard great stuff about Paxton. Always.
Yeah, I'm friends with Jay Chandler Sekar from Super Troopers. And of course, he got to shoot Club Dread with Paxton and be on an island with him and party with him the whole time he's playing Coconut Pete. It just sounds fucking fantastic.
Jordan Ladd was the girl in that, I believe. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's it. It's what it was. It was a horror comedy movie before there were a million horror comedy movies. You know what I mean?
I like Jay. I think Jay's a smart guy. I'm a fan.
He is. All right, so let's talk about Pope's Exorcist. I was looking at the top box office for the year. I believe it is in the top 20 for the year, domestically, and I was saying that's successful.
Oh, really? I take your word for it. I'm looking at worldwide at this point, but I will take your word for it. So.
Well, let me check because I don't want to be an asshole and say something.
That seems like that's high worldwide, though. I mean, I can't complain. This is the.
Let me here. I'll pull it up right here, and then
that's recent enough. So
if you look at it, hold on, I'll scroll down and then we can find it together. Let's see.
Global.
Okay, here you are. Yeah, 29th. I was wrong.
Yeah. Now, global is our biggie. So
the meat and potatoes.
At I haven't seen I think it's like 74.5-ish or close.
That's dope.
So not bad.
So we talked about this when you came on. If people that haven't seen the Pope's Exorcist, it's fucking great. I believe it's available VOD as we speak.
And I believe Blu-ray tomorrow. I believe
that's a big deal too, right? Because like you have to have a certain amount of success for them to even agree to make a Blu-ray for a film anymore. Is that correct?
Who knows how that? I was gonna say who knows in this day and age, but I think we always knew we were getting that. But and I will I'm working on an audio commentary I'll put up on YouTube for folks. It's already ridiculous. But so I can't. We had 5 horror movies come out in a 2-week span. Of the 5, we had the 4th highest marketing budget, and there were 2 left standing at the end, and we're one of the 2.
Yeah,
the other one was on part 5, so I can't really complain. You know what I mean? It's like again, like I take none of this for granted. I'm just thrilled that it's found an audience in the way that it had. And again, like for us now, it's kind of a fun challenge, which is like. Usually, when I was coming up at New Line, traditionally, and it's maybe flipped a little bit now, our horror movies usually worked domestically more and less so internationally. We have flipped that paradigm here, in large part because of Russell, the subject matter, some of the marketing partnerships, etc. So now, in doing another one down the line, knock on wood, we have a chance to improve that domestic number in a way where, like the comp that I'm looking at, and it's done well digital. I'm going to assume Blu-ray will be good, and I assume once we get to Netflix, it'll be strong there. Because Sony's got a nice deal with Netflix in terms of how that will roll. I know Otto is doing very well on there right now.
Yeah.
This is I can't. How can I complain about any of this stuff? At this point now, as I said, the model to me is a smaller scale version of what happened between Austin Powers 1 and Austin Powers 2. Now, Austin Powers 2 was I was there for. In fact, the first movie set I went on as an intern at New Line was Austin Powers 2.
Wow.
In a scene that got cut from the movie. And Mike Myers trashed some dude because his cell phone went off, and it was awesome. It was awesome.
Like how bad? Like Christian Bale screaming at the lighting guy bad?
Not like it's fucking distress. Not that, but like no, this was much more like cutting, like let's not go and do something unprofessional, like leaving us phones on, in accent as Austin Powers, but like cutting like you're an asshole. What are you doing? But that was a case where the first Austin Powers, had some solid word of mouth, but in the advent of DVD, because it was an early DVD movie, popped on home video, got a lot of home video play, so that by the time you came out with the second one, that became an event. And boom. So I think that's the challenge and the goal. And that's a high class problem to even be having that conversation. It's a high class problem. So like I said, for a long road in development, this was 7 years in development, a lot of crazy stuff.
Wow.
And I'm just very grateful to have been at Sony, because there's a version of this where had we been at like Universal, it gets dropped on Peacock, and it's as a man would say, it would have been as blank as a fart. It would have just so we're lucky.
What's the process like then? Is it still wait and see? Like, do they say, hey, if it does this many hours watch, whatever that metric is now they use for streaming, where people brag about how many, it's not about ticket stubs anymore. It's about how much time is literally, it's kind of like here, how much time is spent actually watching the thing. Like, is there a marker you have to hit, or is the hay in the barn? Like, what's the next step when it comes to finding out another one? Yeah.
No, we all want to do it. So it's Russell wants to do it. Our executive wants to do it. Doug Belgrad, my other producer, our co-fi partner, wants to do it.
But I mean, getting approved for it. Like, who
at this point, listen, shit happens.
Right.
Okay. I've been around a long time. People get hit by a bus, somebody gets fired. Like, so nothing guaranteed in life. But at this point, we all want to do it. So I think it's the larger issue for us is Doug is wrapping up Bad Boys 4 in Atlanta. And then frankly, we got to deal with the writer's strike, and we have to play out with respect to the WGA and the labor stoppage. We're limited in terms of what we could do anyway. And I'm a WGA member, so I want to respect that. And I would just anyway, just out of principle, even if I wasn't.
Sure.
Because it would probably be a bad idea. You'd get caught really fast. It's just not good business. And so I think once the strike resolves, we will at that point reconvene. But I mean, prior to the strike hitting, I turned in an outline. I've reached out. There are a couple pieces of talent that I would love. Like we have a unique opportunity in the sense that there is Father Amorth, and that's obviously Russell. And Russell, well, as long as he wants to do it, and he's been great, so he seems like he wants to keep doing it. Or I know he does. So it's a question of how many you want to do. And then there's the fact that you have 199 locations.
I love that.
So being the whore that I am, I'm glad we fought to keep that in. But that 199 allows you to do all sorts of stuff. So that's...
You can go anywhere. Like physically, you could shoot the movie any place interesting you'd like to go.
You could make movies that on the surface, the audience has no idea are 199 movies until they do.
Yeah, that's dope. It's that's an overused term at this point, but it's a cinematic universe.
You could have them meet, or they couldn't. Because again, it's 109. Who says? And maybe eventually you build to that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you surprise people. Maybe you don't. It's from a creative and a business point of view. If you're smart, these movies shouldn't cost a lot. That was the whole genius of this movie. There should be some compelling stuff to be. So we've had a couple conversations in advance of the strike stoppage, across the board. And then I think once this resolves, like we all keep talking, there was because the movie keeps getting it's at the point now where it's done well enough where you're starting to get like Daily Mail had a random thing on it the other day. USA Today had it in their top 25 movies of the year so far the other day, which is ridiculous. But I mean, God bless, we'll take that. And it's so the snowball just kind of now goes. We've had interest from licensors to do Father Amorth stuff. So I just think that now, this is sort of the business with the challenges the business is going through. This is obviously like you'd be a fool to not run with the football when it's there presented to you. And also just from a creative point of view, like that's just an opportunity to go and do some pretty interesting original stuff through that. And I think for us, the hard part was getting past like, oh, exorcism shit. I've seen that before. Da 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 da. We were able to do that through Russell's character and some choices, which were intentional, but the calculated risk, but it paid off. And now that allows you to send him on all sorts of adventures. And so you can basically be, you can do every kind of horror movie ever within this movie, honestly.
It's fantastic. I hope body horror, John Carpenter is the thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I love him. I worked with John's a great dude.
You worked with Carpenter.
Let me tell you about John. I love about John Carpenter. John, and I think John will take this as a compliment. And I hope if he hears this, it's meant to John. This is meant as an incredible compliment.
All right.
John is the most mercenary motherfucker I've ever met in my life. And I love it. John is like, how big is the check?
Sure.
And I love it because there's just no pretense. I had to meet John and I love him. Okay. And I love his wife, Sandy's great. So Lou Arkoff, the son of Sam Arkoff, and I go to John's house at one point to talk to him about doing a thing that we're doing with some of the old AIP titles at the time. And we walk in, I think John and Lou had met and Sandy and Lou had not. So John's introducing Sandy to Lou and he goes to Sandy, this is Lou Arkoff. He's one of my heroes because he's gotten paid for the same set of movies like 3 times over. So I love that about him. You would go meet Carpenter at like Hamburger Hamlet on Sunset, which isn't even there anymore. And you get coffee and food and talk about fucking like 70s wrestling in San Francisco. It's crazy. So I love, but like the point being that every sort of talent, every sort of subgenre, I emailed Paul Giamatti's guys already. I was open about that on Twitter, so it's not a big secret that I would like to get him in. My old friend Lynn Shay, who was in Snakes on a Plane, who's in the Insidious movies. I got an idea for her. There's all sorts of ways to go and do this. But again, it's not like you need to build them into, that's going to build to this horror Avengers and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You can build out a tapestry where they never, like I said, they never have to even intersect, to the point that if you do eventually, even in the slightest way, it's a big, it's wrestling logic, honestly. It's don't let them touch until them touching means something. Like it's I hate to say it, like the amount of logic you take from like three years in WCW as a teenager in terms of just business and storytelling logic relative to movie development was really, I'm very grateful for that too, because I recognize like the logic's very similar. It's not that different.
Well, what you're describing, of course, is wrestling reminds me of Jaws quite a bit, where the shark, you're not seeing the shark until the shit is going down. Like you'll see a fin or you'll see a leg.
Not planned, by the way. That was not the original idea.
Well, the shark didn't fucking work.
Yeah,
so,
right.
But it ends up being perfect. With wrestling, I feel one of the criticisms that everyone has now about it is you've devalued so much. Like if someone comes off the top rope, people are eating finishers left and right. There's 700 super kicks every time the Young Bucks get into the ring.
Finisher until the DDT is not. I get that.
Yeah, and some of it's evolution. Like you say, well, the DDT was a finisher. Now it's a setup move. Well, it depends on who's using it. It depends on how much gravity the person that's administering it has built up and how much credibility they have with the audience as well.
I don't watch the way that I used to. But like, I used to love Japan, and like Japan, the clothesline's a finish, right? So it's a running boot can be a finish in Japan. It's Mitsuharu Misawa, who's one of my favorites of all time. Who, if you've never seen, go on YouTube and find some of his stuff. A running elbow be a finish. It was by an awesome finish, might I add. So obviously we had the marketing partnership with WrestleMania, which I had been working on since the week before we started shooting on this movie. And the minute I knew our release date, I'm like, oh, okay. Even as someone who's like super lapsed at this point, first thing I did was I called Nick Khan, who's an old friend, and I pinged Triple H. I've known both of them independently for 20 years. And they both, yes, let's do this, figure it out. Vince had not left yet. It was right before he was leaving. He was in. He knew Russell. Then obviously he left, came back, da-da-da-da. But anyway, we do this partnership. It's in the works. The fact it didn't leak was awesome because we had things in the works for months. And obviously they're doing the show in LA. And so we're corporate partners. And it's, they're like, oh, come to this, come to that. So we go both nights of the show. And the night before Friday, my buddy and I are down in Manhattan Beach, and they're doing a little reception privately for us, so I get to see some friends I hadn't seen in ages and stuff. It was really wonderful. WWE, from a marketing, I think there's a very legitimate argument to be made between Super Bowl and WrestleMania ad spends, which are the two biggest social media events sports-wise that there are here. WrestleMania actually beats, but it's a two-day event, but regardless, still, that's a big deal. I don't know that there's anybody that got more bang for their buck across both events than we did, realistically, of any movie spend. I don't think. And we sat at that event. I went both nights. The first night, I took a couple of my oldest friends and a couple of just like friends who I knew were just casual or whatever, but wanted to see hardcore wrestling, that's whatever. And all industry people, just like blown away by the level of spectacle at that thing. We're all walking out of SoFi Stadium like, cannot believe. Like, we went to WrestleMania 21 as a guest of the WWE, of Triple H and Stephanie, and like to the evolution from that to this was incredible. The second night we go, and I take one of my ex-girlfriends who has never seen wrestling in her life.
Wow.
Okay. Went to Harvard, wrote for the Harvard Lampoon, is a writer on Frasier coming. Like, it's just
good
like,
Lord.
Oh yeah. Now, by the way, though, her dad was a writer on Letterman during the Andy Kaufman Lawler.
Wow.
Stuff. Yes. So fascinating family around, but great girl, love her to death, still super close. Should probably put a ring on her, realistically.
You fucked that up.
We're still talking. We'll see. Okay. We're neighbors. We'll see. But great lady. So has never seen it in her life though, and has no idea what she's walking into. And by the end of the night, losing her mind.
Yeah.
And again, walking out of it just like, I've never seen anything like that. And so that's a really long-winded. I put them over just obviously the value of them as corporate partners, because I don't think this movie launches in. I think Catholicism, Hispanic, WrestleMania, that cross-section is what won us the day. Critical Drinker gets a little shout out there too. But she understood as a writer the storytelling basics of how and why that, this to that, to da-da-da-da. And so if you can understand, that's why The Rock was successful. He was able to go, okay, wait a minute, Cena. Like, they understand the rules of okay, wait a minute, I can apply. Kevin Nash would tell you that as a friend of mine. Like, oh, okay, I got one take. Samoa Joe just did Twisted Metal for Peacock. And he was telling me, my buddy Carter is the exec on it and actually met Joe through me. And he was joking around with the fact, I think even Anthony Mackie has come out and said this, like, one take, because that's what they get. So Samoa Joe's like, physicality, I have to deliver it. I'm live.
Right.
And so anyway, we could put those guys over all day, but there's no question the story, the rules, and it's informed every movie I've ever made for sure. And also just the value of them as a corporate partner, to be with them at the time when their business was cresting at that level. Personally speaking, as a guy who worked for WCW, had my own thing, which was a huge failure and had to really drag myself and pull myself back out of, to be able to come and kind of close the loop with them as your partner on the biggest WrestleMania of them all, to launch your movie. It was a very special thing, particularly to have my friends that were there, and it was, and I stayed close with them. I texted Triple H the other that we just saw. There was a guy online selling Killer Kowalski's 1950s like wrestling license.
Wow.
I to Triple H and say, "Oh, I have a few of these already."
Of course he does. Well, that guy's no one's a more student of history of that business.
Well, he was a trainer, man. Like when I was 15, I spent the day in Detroit shadowing and just getting to spend the day with Ox Baker and Killer Kowalski.
Wow.
It was awesome. And because we were the only ones that cared, I guess, but they loved us and they liked, and it was incredible. I have my Ox Baker signed thing here somewhere. It's in the closet, but it's those lessons. And it's all informed. It's informed by the movies we grew up on, the pop culture we grew up on. And I do think that it's one of the, we're similar age groups. Like it's one of the advantages that we had that kids, my niece and nephew as an example, are not, because they're just getting stuff that's derivative of Indiana Jones. Like they don't care about Indiana Jones 5.
I need to ask you about that since you brought it up. I've seen everything that people are writing about this movie, and even if you believe it is a good idea that everyone needs to become a powerful woman character, because that seems to be the direction that a lot of these franchises are going, even if you say this is what we got to do, here's the logic that escapes me, is that we need to shit on the reason you are coming to see this film, because no one is going to see that film for any reason other than Harrison Ford wearing the fedora, I would assume. And even those people are bitching about the age. And that's another great, I mean, I hate to kiss your ass for your movie. Russell Crowe can be 80 and play that role. You know, he doesn't have to swing from fucking vines and jump off of the back. Everything I have read about that Indiana Jones movie is that he is depicted as a broken down, henpecked old man, and except for when they do the de-aging stuff. And I don't know how learned people that want to make money get together in a room and decide that whatever message they think is going to push the world forward is more important than keeping their fucking jobs, which is not losing. I mean, this movie has the budget of Avatar, and it's going to take, everyone knows the bath it's about to take. So I don't know how that comes together that way.
Look, I have friends who work at Lucasfilm. I root for their success.
Sure.
I have no problem saying to you, I have no idea how Kathleen Kennedy has kept her job. She should have been fired after the second Star Wars. But the minute you had a Star Wars movie lose money, you should have been fired. Frankly, we're old enough to remember that Star Wars was at one point in time, fairly recently, the biggest movie brand in existence. It was bigger than Marvel. It was the Tiffany brand in all movies. Okay. To inherit that brand and go into it with no plan, knowing culturally, financially, just common sense.
Sure.
You should be fired. And there's no excuse for it. The fact she hasn't been fired should tell you something. And it's really kind of an indictment on Iger and all of it. I have no problem saying that. Nobody with a straight face in town can look at this and be like, she's done a good job.
Right.
And it doesn't take away from what she did prior to this. Frank Marshall and her, great partnership. Okay. Doesn't take away from that. But I'm looking at the job that's in front of me, which is you just inarguably have devalued this brand. Just go to a Target and go look at the clearance racks. Okay. If I were offered a job at Lucasfilm right now, I would turn it down. This is a damaged brand. Now, I don't want to be an executive. I couldn't anyway because of my Sony deal, but like I would turn that down because I'd be like, there's no point.
Right.
And again, like I have friends who work there. I want them to succeed. So this is not like I grew up loving Star Wars. I hate it. I don't watch it now. I've never seen any of the TV show. I saw one episode. I saw the first episode of The Mandalorian. And the minute they brought Baby Yoda, I was done. I was out because I knew what it was. And so I also think you have to recognize the fact that these companies are also being driven now by financial terms in terms of their access to credit, et cetera, that have nothing to do with actual business. And this is you're not supposed to talk about this as well, but like we all know that this is the case. And so I think that is probably a factor as well. But also, like, simply put, even beyond that, because that is a factor, but maybe not even to Lucasfilm or as Disney on the global sense. The larger thing is you put people in a room and they all have sensibilities, they all have philosophies, right? Peter Jackson was smart enough when he got Lord of the Rings to go, I don't care what what my points of view are, what Philippa Burgess, what these Fran Walsh, no. We're going to try to honor what the intent was of Tolkien, right? And that's why that stuff resonated. What has happened here has been the opposite. There is clearly no desire to, like, they took George Lucas's stuff and basically said, no, we know better than you. And again, if these characters were strong enough to stand on their own, they wouldn't need to leech off of the existing characters. So I look at the entire sequel trilogy as a big piece of business malpractice. Irrevocably damaged the brand. I mean, the decision to make the theme park stuff sequel, are you kidding? Like, the people who have the money, who are the parents who are taking their kids, are fans. They don't want to see. They don't care about Adam Driver's character. They want Darth Vader. What was that? Kylo Ren. I had to think about the guy's name. They're going to try to do a Rey movie. You got to be kidding. So I'm. That is one company. again, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I'm sure is talented. I've never met her. I didn't watch Fleabag. Okay. I'm sure she's talented, but the town does this all the time where the town decides someone's a genius, Lin-Manuel Miranda. And if you don't think he's a genius, even though the bulk of the country couldn't give two shits, couldn't pick the guy out of a lineup, couldn't pick her, and you're going to be told you better get on board with the fact that Lin-Manuel Miranda and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it's again, you pick it. It could be, it's no different. We do this, okay? It's Edgar Wright, who is a friend of mine, is a genius. Brett Ratner, prior to getting canceled, an idiot. This is just what we do, okay? Guillermo's a genius. The next guy's not. And again, Guillermo's a friend of mine, and he knows this. So this is not out of turn. We do this. The difference is that Guillermo and Edgar have made stuff that have made money and da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
I don't. Lin-Manuel Miranda is probably unfair because I'm not a Broadway guy. Hamilton was a draw to people. I get it. But like as a movie or TV guy, audience is saying, we don't care, right?
Yeah.
Her, Phoebe Waller-Bridge at this point, I'm just like, Bond, disaster.
Yeah.
Right? Star Wars, Solo, disaster. Indiana Jones, looking like not too good. At what point do you go, maybe this isn't the right choice? And so I don't, but the town's a bubble, man. And so as long as they think someone's a genius, keep getting paid, and I hate to say it, but
there's a part of me that admires the fact that it is all you need to do is look at receipts to understand that the message that they want to convey is more important to them than being successful. And I don't know that I have that. Like I want to be profitable. I want to be able to pay my bills. I want to be able to.
You're a big difference, dude. You're not. Do you have a $500 million revolving line of credit from a bank that has to follow ESG rules?
Well, but I'm assuming you're getting your marching orders from that institution, and that's why you're behaving this way.
But again, it goes back. Listen, on Popes, we had a group of people in the room who were all generally relatively liberal Hollywood folks, but every single one of us, and I was adamant, as were a couple of my partners, but like to their credit, every single one of us was like, this is no political modern crap. At one point, there was a pitch on this movie where it was like, we're going to set it in 2016 and the world's I'm like, no, absolutely not doing that. I don't care what way you vote. I don't. I want your business.
Agree.
Okay. I hate both parties. So that allows me the great ability to be like a pox on all your houses.
Sure.
And like, you're all owned by the same people. There aren't two parties. This is a divide and conquer strategy. I'm not stupid. And so like, I just am like, I'm not playing this game. And everybody's credit on this movie. And to Russell's, we're all just like, with the fact, even Russell at the end of this thing was promoting the fact that it had no agenda. And as far as I'm concerned, none of these movies, as long as we make them, will ever. The only agenda we have is to entertain you. Ever.
Well, I think the Rubicon for me is when they put out that that Ghostbusters movie that had the all-female cast, and I was watching. It was Letterman.
Sony learned that the hard way.
But it wasn't just that they did that. It was. I remember they were on some late night talk show, and I think it was Melissa McCarthy said, "Get out of your parents' basement and go see this movie." Like, I've never seen anyone openly attack the potential customers more than the people promoting these films.
Right.
It's
that works
wild.
Like that contempt for your audience is just not good business. I don't believe in that. You could disagree with me on something. I respect your right. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't impact. I'm still trying to program for the largest possible audience that there is, and I whatever my views, I'm going to have a view you agree with. I'm going to have a view you disagree with. This litmus test that I'm old, man. We're old, so it's we come from a different time, and I have no problems. Like I'm the strings are being pulled financially. Clearly, that's well established at this point. But also, like, if you get in a room of people and they all think the same way, and they're like, "We're going to access to Star Wars is our chance to change the world," we're just like, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
But like, it only takes a room full of people to do that. You know what I mean? It doesn't take ESG to get a room full of people to do that.
No, it takes it takes narcissism. I mean, I still think the common thread through all this is narcissism. It's people sitting around putting on tights and swinging around laser swords, thinking that culturally they're going to empower an entire group. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Listen, dude, you again, you were inherited basically the three most treasured cinematic opportunities that there were in existence, the chance to make those sequels, and you didn't have a plan. You made the second one off of a first draft. Like, come on. So I don't. Listen, man. I'm someone who I look at Warner Brothers and I'm like, how did you not get to the multiverse before Marvel? So
that's a great question.
These things that feel very base to us may not to other people. And a lot of that is, frankly, the people who are programming are not necessarily movie people. They came out of, you had a generation of people who came out of Wharton and,
And you got to tell me, man, when I worked at radio, it was always the general manager was always someone that came from sales. They never came from programming. So they made dumbass decision after dumbass decision because they didn't know anything about what they actually were working, and they just knew about the sales side of it. So I would assume many other industries mirror that fucking business.
I mean, obviously, I had a great time doing ESPN here, and they're sales driven, of course. It's the they just had huge layoffs. A bunch of the two people that ran the creative programming end at the station, that the ESPN out here, who both of whom I quite liked, both just got let go about a month ago in the most recent layoffs. And I'm kind of like, how is that going to, where is programming? Is it coming from Bristol at that point? Like, how does that work? So, because it's a split thing, they sold the operational end of it to this other company run by Mel Karmazin's kid. And the programming was still being done by ESPN. So I like, as you know, like radio in general, like probably undervalued really for the reach, but it's
100%. And also not die. I mean, dying is such a relative term, but I always use the comparison because I did sports talk, and I just had so many calls over the years telling me that boxing was dying, and I was like, well, I've been hearing that for 20 years, and it's not what it was, certainly, but it still makes a pile of money and is in the zeitgeist. And I feel like radio is
one or two fights a year.
Yeah. I feel like as long as radios are still in the car, people are going to listen to it. Clay Travis tweeted out something the other day where he said, this is like the first jump, like younger people in like 18 to 24 are listening to terrestrial radio more than people that are 25 to 54. Well, just fucking crazy.
That is interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that. But
no, I wouldn't have either. You got to give me your thoughts on The Little Mermaid. It wasn't Critical Drinker. It was one of there's 3 or 4 of these guys that do a fantastic job. And I have you to thank for that because you introduced me to him the first time you came on the show. And he's really entertaining with a lot of common sense. But they were making the point that what goes on with these movies is that you talk about a bubble. They make movies for California. They make movies where they believe that everyone on the planet, because people are saying that China is racist because they don't want to go see The Little Mermaid. It's like, no, you've made a fucking movie that is for the people that have the sensibilities that are in this one tiny part of the world and the rest of the globe doesn't feel that way. And he went on to explain like how the father is not destroying all of the monuments inside of that cave because he wants to save his daughter from this life that's going to be difficult. He's trying to kill Sebastian. I mean, they take a fucking all of the humanity of the father out of it. And of course, she's not leaving the ocean anymore because she's in love with a guy. She's leaving the ocean for some other reason. It's like not every other culture is as down on families and the, traditional parental structure as we are here. And that's why they're not going to fucking see this movie over there. And that seemed to make a lot of sense to me. But again, I just don't know. It's a very myopic view of what is going to bring the most people to your table to see your product. And you fuck up The Little Mermaid.
I'll be honest with you. I've never actually seen the original Little. I'm not a Disney guy at all.
I loved it. I saw it in a fucking theater. I thought it was great.
I've never seen The Little Mermaid. I've never seen Beauty and the Beast. I've never seen any of them. I did not grow up in a Disney household. I have no romance for that brand whatsoever. It just missed me entirely.
But you acknowledge the enormity of it.
I know that they were very popular, and I understand. Listen, I look at the entire we're gonna do live action. I'm very cynical about the entire live action remake of animated. Yeah. It's just, to me, again, I find it lazy, but it's the economic realities. But I can't get up in arms. I did hear a couple seconds of that horrible Aquafina song, which is just
bro.
Aquafina and that guy Josh Gad, if they are in a movie, there's no way I will watch it. I don't know what it is. I apologize to both of them. It's not personal. It's just for whatever reason they annoy the shit out of me. And when they pop up in something, I'm like, the dude who directed Renfield's a very nice guy. We're gonna hook up. We've been DMing on Twitter. We actually met after the fact for all this. And I'm curious about like the sort of, because I know Crazy Rich Asians was huge, obviously, but like I just feel like she's had a couple of these. I don't know. I don't like Awkwafina. Something about her as a screen presence is not for me.
Is it the name Awkwafina? Because that's what it is for me.
It could be Binky Rabinowitz for all I care. I find you annoying. Josh Gad. Something about him just really annoys me.
She was in Shang-Chi, which by the way became Shang-Chi. Well,
I've never seen it.
It is a fucking steaming. I could not believe, because I know that character. Like I read all those books. I love the street.
He tried to sell me that a bunch back. I never loved
I did the street level characters with Moon Knight, Shang-Chi, Daredevil.
There's a difference. Like Iron Man and the Iron Fist and Power Man and Daredevil, and like that's Shang-Chi was a notch below.
You're probably right. But Iron Man was a notch below Spider-Man and Thor and all those.
Yes, but several notches above Shang-Chi.
Well, I agree with you, but I Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew that roster before it came out, and it was a good movie, so it did well.
Yes, but Andy Lanning had that run on the comic, had fans. I think he and Dan Abnett, if I remember correctly. But yes, I'm not arguing with you. These are all, again, it's I have not seen a Marvel movie since Spider-Man.
That was good.
I'm kind of out. I'm superheroed out, man. Like I have a friend who's the producer on The Flash. I hope it works for him. Like I'll see it eventually. I just am superheroed out, man.
I'm not going to see it.
Oh, really?
I can't risk them fucking with Michael Keaton as Batman. It was my life for a long time.
It was our Batman, of course.
I'm not gonna fucking risk screwing that up. I love Batman and Batman Returns too much to take that risk.
Batman Returns is the better movie.
So by the way, fantastic. We debate Die Hard being a Christmas movie mindlessly and endlessly. Batman Returns,
yes,
very nice Christmas movie. Yes. I love it.
Also, Christopher Walken, the best villain in the movie.
Max Schreck.
Yes.
Fucking fantastic.
Frankly, Mr. Mayor, I cringe. I love that.
When he brings him down from upstairs with the dead fish, and then everyone's down there with his campaign, it's one of my favorite.
Great in that movie. But yeah, I'm again, like they're doing Booster Gold, which is a comic that I wrote, and we'll see if it goes or whatever. But they're developing it for under the new DC regime, so I'm interested in that, obviously, because it's got personal sort of ramifications.
Sure.
But I just am. At this point, like I just have had my fill. I'm. If you had said to me as a kid that, hey, they're going to make all these superhero movies, they're going to make the final Star Wars trilogy, they're going to make another Indiana, and like you wouldn't go see them, and now you wouldn't even go see it if you don't even care.
Yeah.
Like, what? And like I've still never seen the final Star Wars. I've still never seen it.
No, I didn't either. After I saw I turned The Last Jedi off. After they did the 40-minute scene that literally was just shitting on rich people for some reason. And I was like, I don't know what is this? So I never saw it either or followed up.
There's war profiteering suddenly in the Star Wars universe. I was like, okay, but like,
yeah.
My ex-girlfriend, Woody's mom, and I, we were living in New York. We went to go see that movie opening morning. We were excited. Star Wars, hey, cool. All right, and I have never been again, your first showing, like 10 in the morning, whatever it was, opening morning. I have never felt the air come out of a movie theater like that in my life.
Yeah.
I was walking out, that was like a funeral.
I agree. And I remember pretending I liked Phantom Menace for several weeks after I saw it in the theater.
Phantom Menace is way better. The prequels are so much better than these movies. The bad ideas in the prequels are so much better than anything in the sequels. It's not even close.
Oh, I would agree, but that doesn't make Phantom Menace a good movie.
No, but it's still better than anything in the prequels.
Oh, just the Darth Maul, just the lightsaber duel.
That's my point. The original stuff, every single one of those movies, original worlds, original creatures, original, there's original stuff. Each one of them's got one piece of great orchestral music by John Williams.
Duel of Fates is the shit.
All three of those prequels have one great piece of work by John Williams, at least. Again, plenty flawed, the kids terribly cast. But like those sequels made me appreciate. I have no problem saying that. I was a prequel defender at some of them, I think, ahead of that, because again, I just I'll take George Lucas's terrible Star Wars ahead of somebody else's fan fiction any day. I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I've never read a Harry Potter.
Me neither.
Woody's mom made me watch the movies once, And I said, I will do that, but in return, you're going to watch Time Cop. I made her watch like Drop Zone.
Sure.
Tortured her. It was awesome. And I never need to see them again. But like people clearly love them, and I'm like, if I was me, like, why would I want to see a non-J.K. Rowling Harry Potter if I was a Harry Potter fan?
You wouldn't.
I don't get it. So,
by the way, I just saw Drop Zone. We have a movie club on the show.
I'm a Drop Zone fan.
That is such a great movie, and my wife enjoyed it. She thought it was because she thought it was like 4 or 5 other movies that I watch all the time. Like I always have Under Siege on. Like I always have all these different films. And she's like, "This is like everything else you like." I'm like, "Yeah, the fuck it is."
Yes, it is. There is something about that movie. You know, it's like it's prime Wesley Snipes. Nancy Butler's hot but appealing to women. And if I remember, Gary Busey's good in it. And if I remember correctly, great. Michael Jeter from Evening Shade, who's like the little computer hacker, he actually did his jumps. Because a bunch of those guys didn't do them, and Michael Jeter, I believe, is one of the few who did do the jumps.
The scene where Gary Busey kills the guy by parachuting on top of him and then using his feet.
It rides him into the yeah.
So needless. Like there's so many easier ways to kill somebody.
Yeah, well, it's a skydiving movie because there was that and there was Terminal Velocity, and they came out at the same time. Drop Zone is just far superior.
Have you seen
an excess song at the end, by the way?
Is it called? Is it an original for the movie?
I think, don't quote me. There's a very good Toad the Wet Sprocket song in that movie, and there's a great In Excess song in the end.
I would never disrespect your movie knowledge, but I'm gonna test you right now. Do you know who did the original theme song for Demolition Man during the credits of that film?
So, it wasn't Sting doing the cover of Demolition Man or the police song? What was it before?
It was that song, but they changed some lyrics around to fit the movie, which is fantastic. And they play it when the credits roll.
All right. Well, I remember the version where Sting, because he did a music video of it.
Yeah.
By him playing the bass or whatever. I love that movie.
Crazy you knew that.
Well, because it was a police song originally.
Yeah.
I have to go and relook at Michael Thompson, Klay Thompson's father, who was great, played for the Showtime Lakers, multiple time NBA champion, great guy, number 1 NBA pick in the draft in like 1978 or 79 to the Trailblazers. He and I, one of my favorite guys to do radio with. He's a great, great, great guy. He still is the color guy for the play-by-play for the Lakers now.
Oh.
And he and I were joking around that we miss in the 80s, you would have theme songs that were like the name of the movie. Back to School would have a song called Back to School. Or, even Revenge of the Nerds 2 had Take Me Back to Paradise by, I think, Loverboy. Like, or Night Ranger, I think. One of the two. And so like we miss that. That's like, you don't get like, we're going to Jurassic World. That's the one thing that Top Gun Maverick was missing for me was like, yeah, I miss in a Pope's Exorcist. It'll probably be early 90s. So I'll see if I can sneak one in there.
That's a great fucking idea. That I gotta say, when I heard Lady, what's that?
I mean, come on.
You gotta get
Rangers available.
You gotta get like Better Than Ezra to do it too. Like what?
By the way, yes, that's exactly right. Is you have to go and get Better Than Ezra or like who are the guys that did Vasa, the Flaming Lips?
Oh yeah,
or
Gin Blossoms.
Dishwalla, who did Tell Me All Your Thoughts of God. There you go.
Counting Blue Cars.
Delamitri. They're all available.
Huey Lewis wrote Back in Time for Back to the Future, right?
I'm sure, yeah.
I don't think that was, but that's
not
the perfect.
Power of Love, though. I don't think Power of Love was written for it.
That's such a masterful execution.
I think they had a different song at one point. I may be wrong on that. I don't know. Maybe Eric Stoltz confusion there. But like I'm like your audience. So like to me, the fact that like The Flash is a movie they would probably hope your audience would go to see.
Sure.
And I think they're in some trouble. It's gonna be interesting. We'll see how it does this week. But like, what is it that has got you? And do you think that that's shared with your audience for the most part? Is it just fatigue?
I don't know, man. I think first of all, I'm like you. I have superhero fatigue. I'm completely done with it. I don't know how you have Batman and Superman and fuck this thing up for 15 years. Like the two big guys like that. You got them both, and you can't get it right. I liked Ezra Miller up until everything, the crazy shit that took place. I'm not even really. I don't need to be the people that I go to for entertainment to be paragons of virtue. Like,
Yeah,
I don't need that. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's actively in prison or is actively on, it's like, okay, like we can't have that. But if this shit is over with, I can watch a movie with him in it and not think that I'm endorsing whatever the fuck.
Bill Cosby himself is a very funny movie.
I fucking watch that all. I listen to. I have Bill Cosby 12-inch records that I still listen to on a regular basis, and I'm able to say I don't like the idea of putting drugs in people's drinks, but I still find this material to be.
Yeah, I'm separating I'm able to do that.
But. The Flash, though, specifically Batman, and it's tough to tell the young people how, because they've had superheroes their whole lives. In 1989, it was not even just a force of nature. It was the biggest thing that had ever happened.
You do not. My birthday is in December. I delayed my birthday party 6 months to have it for Batman. So yes, the T-shirts, merchandising. You do not, because today also, like, culture is fragmented. You can never have something as big as what this was. And also, just even at the time, as you know, like casting Keaton, that was a huge risk.
Nicholson. Casting fucking Nicholson as the Joker.
That was a coup. Now, who did they originally want to cast as Batman?
You got to tell me now.
Bill Murray.
See,
would not have worked.
I don't know, because Keaton was funny. Keaton was a comedy guy up until that point.
Looked still cool in the suit. Bill Murray wouldn't have looked good in the suit.
Bill Murray pulls off shit in his youth that I don't think he should be able to pull off at times.
The other Jokers were Willem Dafoe and Ray Liotta.
I'd watch both of those.
Both of them are good.
Turbulence. Have you seen Turbulence with Ray Liotta?
Yeah, Ray Liotta's a nutty
fucking fantastic. Reminds me a lot of Drop Zone.
I had a general. First of all, I've met both of them. Ray Liotta, I had the pleasure of having drinks with once.
Get out of here.
At the L'Ermitage, and he was awesome. Lauren Holly was super nice, but also had, this is horrible, but it had her breasts augmented. And like, they were so, I'm in a meeting and I'm trying to be professional. This is horrible, but I think the statute of limitations is passed.
It is what it is.
They look great. But I mean, it was just like, oh my goodness. It was so outrageous that, these are the professional secrets that I shouldn't share. But
I think people appreciate them.
Look, you can look at the before and after yourself, but
she was great in that movie too. Cause I don't know, the pixie haircut's something that I always kind of, if you can pull that off, it's very impressive. The part about Batman, though, is
Bridget Fonda, single white female era. Yes.
I can't have it fucked up. I don't have the brain where I can compartmentalize. I will associate this crystal skull with Indiana Jones now for the rest of my life. And whatever this is, it's going to be even worse. So that's why I'm not even going to fucking see it. Because
I won't see Indiana Jones. I have to tell you, I'm Crystal Skull. I'm friends with Shia LaBeouf, and I haven't seen him in a minute, but I mean, Shia and I came up together, and I was around a bit of that. And I saw him go through the ringer, and obviously, made mistakes, but also went through a lot of crap and has come out of it pretty well. But like that movie's not his fault, first of all.
Sure.
He's far from the worst thing in that movie. It is just, man, there is a Spielberg, the minute he's gone back on this since, to his credit, the minute he made that E.T. decision, he's never been the same to me. To go back and change the guns to walkie-talkies.
Oh yeah, to walkie-talkies.
And so there's that, but I think the larger point is CG again, swinging with the monkeys, the
leading the monkey army,
getting the fridge, all when you're CG is not Indiana Jones.
No,
it's not. And I think that is actually kind of the secret driver of a lot of the issues of that movie. Actually,
probably. I mean, think about that set they built under Pencott Palace in Temple of Doom, and just like the mine trucks and the exploding.
Go watch. I'm not a big fan of the original Exorcist. I think it's an overrated movie. And I just don't think I wasn't alive for it to be traumatized by it. I saw it late. Okay? So it's the Batman thing. But William Friedkin, the same director, did a movie called Sorcerer. That is fucking phenomenal. Okay? It is how people feel about The Exorcist. I feel about Sorcerer.
Sure.
And go watch Sorcerer. Have you ever seen it?
You brought it up the last time, and I wrote it down.
Yeah,
I still haven't fucking seen it. I need to
go watch that movie.
Okay.
And you're gonna sit there and you're gonna go. It's made in like 1970, whatever, with Roy Scheider. And you're gonna sit there and you're gonna go, how in the fuck did they make from like a production? It's like watching like Werner Herzog, moving like the natives moving. You're just like, how in the world? It's a really simple movie. It's Wages of Fear. They got 4 trucks filled with nitroglycerin. They got to transport the 4 trucks to go get paid, and they're going to do it along the most treacherous route ever humanly possible.
Wait a minute. I've seen that fucking movie.
Okay, it's a great movie. And Roy Scheider is
when they're going across the rickety bridge and it's snapping left and right.
Yes.
Oh, we did. We watched that. That is a wild movie.
How in the world? And so, yeah, to me, I watch The Wild Bunch once or twice a year. Sure. I watched it this weekend. And, you just like, the blood looks ridiculous. It's just like, it's tactile. I love it. Grungy. It's dirty. As I hit my own table, CG isn't that. And I think that for Indiana Jones particularly, it's by the same way. Remember when you saw Die Another Day?
Yeah.
And you went, wow, it's, and I love Brosnan. I can forgive a lot of the flaws, but it's not his fault. But because he always wanted to go grittier. But CG head on the snow, like James Bond, it's not what it is.
No.
It's so I think that it's understanding the character and the world you're working in as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Kept you longer than an hour. I said I wouldn't do that, so I apologize. Jeff, you're the best guest I have on. I really appreciate you taking the time. Now, how can people help everything with the movie right now? Is it just watch it VOD, get the Blu-ray?
Yeah, it's available on digital at this point. It'll be on Blu-ray, I believe, tomorrow. I'm almost 100% sure on that. And keep telling your friends, keep spreading the word. I think in our case, the trajectory is looking pretty good. This is one of those things where to thread the needle in the manner that we seemingly have threaded it, well, I can't complain. So the rest is all kind of gravy. Very grateful for the support of your audience. Has been great and very vocal in their support of the movie. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
All sorts of solid dudes out there.
A lot of solid dudes.
Yeah. Have you not, by the way, the one thing you need to do on this show, if you have not done it, is do you have an audio drop? Maybe you had it on the radio show back in the day from Trading Places of Eddie Murphy going, "It was the Dukes, it was the Dukes." Because
I should I've gotten so many Dukes things over the years, and that has never fucking. I get the mayonnaise, which isn't even Dukes mayonnaise; it's DUKE''S.
I didn't even know that existed.
Bro, that's been sent to me 4 times a week for the past 15 years.
Where's that even in? What region?
It's got to be more southern than if you're not seeing it, because it's all over the place.
That's like out here it's like Hardee's is Carl's Jr. And like I had Hellman's, and now it's like Best Foods or whatever the crap it is. So
yeah, but that's a great idea. I've got on my regular show that you came on before, I've got all the sound drops. I'm a week into this shit.
No, of course. I'm not expecting it. Also, there's the Dukes of September, the Steely Band super group.
There's also Frank Dukes, of course, from Bloodsport.
That's right. That's also right. But yeah, they regardless, very much appreciated. We appreciate the support from the audience. It'll keep checking it out in digital and physical if you're a physical media guy. I'll probably have an audio commentary up this week on YouTube as well. And I think everything looks pretty good. So just sort of knock on wood, we will sort of keep the train moving. But the fact we're even in this conversation is a wonderful thing.
It's fantastic, man. I couldn't be more happy, and I certainly was happy when I saw it, and I enjoyed it as much as I did. It is at Podcats on Twitter and Worldwide Cats on Instagram, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again in the very near future, my friend. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Excellent. Brand new episode of the Chad Dukes Show today at 2:00. If you want to subscribe to that, it is chaddukesshow.com, and we'll see you on the next episode. Solid dudes, like and share, please.